working on the engine of my 180D this past week, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to let you see what I've been up to. You know, anytime I get one of these old diesels, pre-1985, I always adjust the valves first. You can't believe how often this procedure is neglected on the old diesels. I went ahead and removed the valve cover, you know, and went to the adjustment procedure. It's a little bit different than the newer ones because you can see this is a flathead diesel. It does not have an overhead camshaft. And sure enough, I checked some of the valves and there were 2 or 3 that were extremely loose. So I went ahead and did a valve adjustment. It looks like the rockers and the push rods are in good condition here. And after the valve adjustment, then I went ahead and went after the fuel injectors. This is another thing that even on low mileage diesels like this one that have been driven for years, it's very common to see fuel injectors that have gotten gummed up or carboned up and they just aren't firing properly. So I went ahead and removed the fuel injectors, and I noticed that on this number 4 here, there was quite a bit of fuel and wetness around the area. So I went ahead and used my special pre-chamber tool, and 3 of those collar nuts were loose. That's another thing you want to do. If you get an old diesel and you see any wetness around any of the injector holes on the head, you'll want to check the tightness of those pre-chamber collar nuts. So let's move in close here. I'll show you the condition of the injectors. Also, I want to convert this engine to the newer fast glow plugs, the pencil style. This will make it, you know, I have to wait 30, 40 seconds for this thing to glow up to start. And with these new glow plugs that I'm going to install, I will be able to probably start this engine within 5 to 10 seconds. I wasn't surprised to find 3 collar nuts loose on this old 180D. Almost every diesel I get, as I mentioned, has a problem with a couple of loose collar nuts. And when they get real loose, you'll start leaking fuel out of the cylinder head of the engine. So I set about to design this special tool that we now build in our shop. It comes in 2 pieces, as you can see here. The first piece is inserted down into the pre-chamber with this fine thread. And once that's set in place, you set the socket over the top and connect it down into the 2 notches on the collar nut. Then you have to use this nut to tighten this collar nut socket down tight into the collar nut, because you're going to be applying at least 100 and a little more than 100 foot-pounds. So if you don't have something that can hold this socket down tight on the collar nut will be damaged. This thing will slip out. So I recommend, if you have or work on your own diesels pre-1986 and older, I highly recommend this tool here. The 180D, like so many of these other older diesels, uses a series or loop style glow plug. This style glow plug was used from the early 1950s all the way up through 1979. They work okay, but they're prone to 2 problems. One of the problems here is this looped wire burns out. And when it burns out, because these are wired in series, you can affect the rest of the glow plugs. In fact, if number 4 glow plug burns out, you won't even get power to the other ones. The other problem is they take a long time to heat up. And if you've owned one of the really old diesels, you know what I'm talking about. You'll sit there and turn the key on, or you'll pull the start switch and you'll wait and wait and wait and wait until you can finally start the car. When they introduced the pencil style glow plug in 1980, it eliminated the long wait to start problem, and it also eliminated the problem if one of the glow plugs burns out, the others won't work. With a parallel or pencil style glow plug, if one burns out, the other 3 will light. So now the engineers came along and Bosch created a pencil style glow plug with the large thread that will allow you to install the new technology in these old engines. I have a number of kits on my website. We call them fast glow plug override kits or fast glow plug upgrade kits, which will allow you to put the pencil or parallel style glow plugs in these old diesel engines. So I'm going to do that on this engine, and I'm going to demonstrate just how fast it starts. I think if you looked at one of my earlier videos, you'll see how long I had to wait when I turned the lever to get the glow plugs to glow. And in the future video, I'll show you how this works with the new glow plugs installed. I also took a look at these injectors. You can see this one here's kind of rusty, this one here's kind of wet, and all of them have quite a bit of carbon built up around the tips. That's just because of the age. Even though this engine only has 75,000 miles on it, I'm sure when I bench test these that I'm going to find some problems with the spray pattern. So using our Monarch nozzles that we get out of Germany, I am going to go ahead and use my special bench tester kit, and I'm going to disassemble these injectors and install new Monarch nozzles. So with those two things, I'm expecting better performance and better run out of this engine. Now there's some other things I'm going to have to do to the engine. If you look here, some of the hoses are worn. I'm going to have to replace some of the heater hoses and radiator hoses. Also, you can look down in there, you can see the belts are worn. So I'm going to go through the engine, probably replace the motor mounts, look at all the rubber parts. I'll do the glow plugs, the nozzles, and we'll get this thing back together and get it running. And then in future videos, I'm going to come back. There's other things I'm going to have to do in this engine compartment, so I'll show you those items in a later video.